Statistically, you are spot on. Over time, the life expectancy is getting shorter. We have the first generation of kids who are not expected to live as long as their parents. This conversation is how we change that. Generational health is what we're looking to create, and here's how to do it. And of course, we didn't know how to do this before, and of course, we didn't learn a lot of these things, which is why we're having this conversation. And recognizing that you would like that cycle to end with you is potentially the most powerful choice that we can make. Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your health and lifestyle coach, Jenn Trepeck, here with you every week for Wellness Without the Weirdness. And longtime listener, friend of the pod, a friend of mine, Deanna is back. Hi, Dee.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great, thanks.
I love when we get a chance to talk. And now we logged on to the recording session and got chatting right away. So now I'm excited for everybody to hear our conversation.
Yes.
So today, we're adding to the conversation that we've been having over the past month or so. So at the beginning of July, we discussed highly preventable diseases. Essentially, diseases that respond to lifestyle and blood markers that show the response. Okay, then we had our featured guest, Dr. Aaron Hartman, who talked about options that are available to us even when a doctor says, there's nothing more we can do for you, or you have an incurable disease, or diagnosis, I should say, rather than disease. And then the next episode, we talked about signs that we're healthy, because so often we're looking for signs of illness or disease that what does wellness even look like? And now we're talking about how to create generational health. So Dee, when I say generational health, what does that make you think of?
Well, generational to me because of age-wise on my parents.
Yep.
And then obviously my kids and then their kids, their health all the way through. And honestly, because I'm lucky enough that I still have parents alive, in-laws alive, and then my kids are grown. My oldest is married and has 2 little grandkids that I get to watch a couple days a week. So I get to see all generations of health.
Yes. And this is part of why I'm so glad you're here, because I'm not a mom. I'm a cool aunt. Right? The caveat. And I work with kids and families. Most of my clients are parents. And at the same time, I'm very aware that I come to this conversation from a different place than people who are the ones literally in the house day in and day out.
Right.
So
right.
I'm so glad you're here for this. And I think the other piece that you brought up is so spot on, which is we're for so many years now, like we have multiple generations experiencing that sandwich generation thing of parents and kids or grandkids that we're, taking care of or concerned about or talking about.
Right. Navigating all of it right now. Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly right. Yep.
So we're going to talk about all of that today.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
And more specifically, too, how I think a lot of what we're experiencing today is a function of what we learned when we were kids. And we're seeing the consequences of some of that with our parents now. And so the other piece of this conversation is breaking that cycle.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get too far into it, let's talk about the Happy Healthy Hub. So friends, are you a member? So members, this week, I specifically selected a family-friendly recipe that is easy to make and easy to reheat, so your littles can maintain some of that independence in putting something together for themselves. So the recipe is for individual sausage casseroles. They're basically your own healthier egg bites, perfect for breakfast or a snack, really any meal. So you get to make them keep them in the fridge or the freezer, and then they're simple to heat up. So if you want this recipe, be sure you're a member of the Happy Healthy Hub. You go to asaladwithasideofries.com/membership for just $12 a month, or you can prepay the whole year at once and get 2 months free. You get weekly recipes, curated articles, discounts from me and our partners, expert interview episodes in full video, including some behind-the-scenes content, access to the community board where we can interact, ask and answer questions, and so much more. This really is the next best thing to working with me in my signature 12-week coaching program. So if you're ready to level up from listening to the podcast, support this show so that we can keep doing this together and support you between episodes, go to asaladwithasideofries.com/membership, or you can click the link in the episode notes below. From there, you're going to click subscribe now, follow the prompts to enter your payment info, create your login to access the hub and all your benefits. Again, this week's recipe is for individual sausage casseroles. By the way, this month, members also got, I think it was like 20% off all merch, which is amazing.
I'm going to go shopping, Jen.
I know. Not to put you on the spot. You're a member.
Yes. Yes, I am.
What do you like about it?
I love the recipes. In fact, I can't wait now that I can see this one, because I do a lot of that stuff for my grandkids when I go over. Sometimes I will actually plan the dinner, because I go over early in the morning and then I stay to help them get to bed and stuff, because my daughter-in-law is a nurse, and so she's really late getting home. And so just to help with that, they've got, 2 littles that are close together. It's a wonderful chaos, but it is that. And so if I can help get dinner started, ready, easily, like crock pot or whatever, but even breakfasts, like the muffins or the egg bites are great. It's much easier to coordinate all of that. And so I do try to help with that a lot.
Awesome.
So the recipes are awesome.
Good. I love it. All right, let's start with this idea of breaking the cycle.
Okay.
So I feel like growing up, I learned diets.
100%.
I learned every diet under the sun. I knew to eat vegetables. I ate a lot of vegetables. I remember at times other people around me where there were rules on how many cookies you could have. And it was interesting because I found, or I noticed that, like, because those rules existed, I would sneak things.
Yes.
But in the house where those rules didn't exist, it wasn't a big deal. I didn't necessarily need the extra cookies or whatever it was.
I grew up in a house, Jen, it's kind of familiar. It's like my mom was always on a diet. Yeah. Always. Was never happy with her weight or any of this. Also, an older brother who was a wrestler.
And
so,
trying to make weight.
Oh, 100%. I mean, a really tough, anybody that's a wrestler out there understands all of that. It's extremely hard. And, middle school, high school, college, or whatever, it's intense. And I mean, not having things in the house, but then having things in the house, and then having my brother like, you have to go get me some of this. And so experiencing it on both sides of that. But 100%, my mom, Weight Watchers, everything, tried everything. To this day, she still struggles, or she thinks she struggles, and has never, ever achieved whatever it was that she was looking for in that.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I think of in this idea of breaking the cycle is what we talked about a couple weeks ago, of like, what runs in your family?
Heart disease,
okay,
high blood pressure, all of that, right? All of those things. Both of my grandfathers had heart attacks. We never really talked about high blood pressure, any of that kind of stuff. And we never really talked about what, quote unquote, ran in the family, diabetes or whatever, or at least I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Part. All I remember is the heart attacks. Didn't associate any of that with lifestyles or that kind
Sure.
of stuff.
Like, yeah. I remember not really having those conversations till I was a teenager and I could drive, and I was going to doctor's appointments by myself and filling out the forms. And I was like, do we have a family history of any of these things? And that's when I started to ask questions. And now, I mean, seeing what's happening with parents or relatives or things like that. Now I think we're much more aware of, especially as we're taking care of parents is an awkward phrase to me because I think it can mean such a broad range of things. But I'm so aware of my parents' health and the things that they're doing or not doing or whatever it is that I'm more aware of what runs in a family in that way now than ever before. And to your point, we didn't talk about lifestyle because I almost get annoyed with the word lifestyle these days because I think it's used so much that it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
The reality is it's how we live our lives. It's sleep and stress and what we eat and how we move and all of these things and how we travel and what we're used to, what we expect, and family dynamics and relationships, right? Like all of those things play into lifestyle. And the truth is, as we've talked about before, so much of what we think is a disease that runs in the family. It's really that the lifestyle that creates that process runs in the family versus something being genetic where you may have to have a greater commitment to certain things to manipulate the genes, which is also possible. That's, epigenetics, which we've talked about a lot. So for today, this idea of breaking the cycle is recognizing what are the messages that we learned? What are the things that were a default that we're now realizing, especially as we look at what's happening with the generations above us, we can change those outcomes. We're seeing the outcomes of those things with ourselves and with them, and we can change it.
Yeah. As I'm thinking about this, Jen, what comes to mind is what we grew up with. And I should preface this too of where I grew up. I grew up on a very rural area of Colorado. I mean, a very rural area of Colorado. One grocery store, only option. Other grocery store is your garden. So grew up like that. And I actually worked in the grocery store. So we did not have the options then that we have now. And what my parents, that generation, then like a very hardworking community. So a farming community, a very hardworking community. Not a lot of people, or in my family, didn't really necessarily, like my mom always just thought that she needed to be a teeny tiny person or whatever, but all worked hard. But that generation there, what they got used to is massive meals every meal. Right? So massive breakfast, you go out, you farm, you whatever, you take that break, your massive lunch, you go work and you work it all off and you come home and you do a big dinner. So now that generation's the same generation trying to deal with that. But now they're in that, it's like, I still want to eat that much, but I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to cook all that. And so what that generation's like, oh, that's really cool. Now I don't have to cook all that because now I can just go buy this box thing at the grocery store. It's much easier.
Yes. And the piece that's coming up in my mind with that too is that if we look at their parents, it was likely the Depression era where it was this whole thing of not having to then going to this abundance piece. And for your family, very active physical work. And then growing up when I did in the 80s and the 90s, it was convenience because for many of us, both of our parents worked. And so it was the beginning of all of that packaged food and TV dinners and lean cuisine. Like we did an episode 90s versus now with all of these foods and this stuff that we used to eat because it was this convenience piece. And we didn't realize what all of the stuff in those now very convenient packages we're going to do to our health over time. That's what we're seeing now.
And we didn't have them every time. I mean, we thought it was really cool to have a TV dinner, but it was like once every 2 weeks or whatever. I mean, again, where we grew up, like there weren't any restaurants. So it's like you fixed your food. You had to and fix it and feed a family of 6 with what you had. And we didn't have a lot. It turned into the abundance thing and much faster too for the double working family. And athletics and this and that. You start adding that on when I was in high school.
Right. And the piece to me in living in this modern world, as you're talking, Longtime listeners, and you, Dee, you know, like I rarely have groceries in my house. So I don't grudge anybody for ordering from a restaurant or eating out or any of those things. It becomes a function of what we choose when we do that and just understanding the give and take that comes with that. So as we look then at the snowball into the next generation and how we are now creating generational health, the piece that I really hope people understand is that the foundations are fundamentally human. So they are the same for every single one of us, regardless of how old we are or how young we are. So it's nutrition, hydration, movement, sleep, stress, community and connection, and mindset.
And that has never changed generation to generation.
We've lost sight of it. And I think number one, we've lost sight of it. I think number two, what each of those means has become very muddy. And we think that it doesn't matter or it matters less until you get to an age where. The reality is, when we come at this from a perspective of generational health, it matters at every age, and especially understanding that lifestyle is inherited. What we do with littles around is really the piece to breaking the cycle.
Yep. They mimic everything. That's why they repeat everything that you do. 100% they do. They respond to how you have responded to something.
Yes.
And 100% for those grandparents out there, they can totally relate to this, Jen, is trying to remember raising your kids, which sometimes is a blur because you're trying to raise your kids and everything else. It is a blur. Then you have the opportunity, if you're blessed to have grandkids, then you see that. And it is so different to try and, I'm blessed with the ability to help raise these littles and the habits.
So let's go into that.
Okay.
So let's start with the nutrition piece. Picky eaters, I get it. Pick your battles. At the same time, how we talk about the food creates how they think about the food. So a couple of the things that I teach the kids and families that I work with. Fridge first. Food is found in the fridge. We can then fill in with things from the pantry, but food is found in the fridge. And fridge over freezer. So we can talk about that too.
Except for really cool popsicles that grandma makes.
Right. Exactly. Energizing foods, energizers versus energy zappers. Maybe we're going to focus on fueling up for whatever the activity is, right? We're going to eat breakfast so that we are fueled for the soccer game. We're going to the water park today. Let's fuel up for the water park. Putting food in that context of fuel and recognizing there are foods that give us more energy than others. Some foods give us energy that lasts longer. Some foods give us better energy to focus versus run around. And we can start to think about those pieces. One of the questions I get all the time is, well, what about hiding vegetables in foods? Pureeing the carrots and adding it to the tomato sauce. I am a yes and on that.
I would agree.
So there's an age where, great, let's get them in there any way we can. And we want them to know that they're eating these foods.
Yeah, they taste great.
We want them to taste them. So that's the other thing is, like you were saying before too, the example, you eat them, they can have some, right? Most of the time, like I'll have clients who say, well, my kids aren't going to eat that. I'm like, okay, wait and see. I had one client years ago where she came home and the kids had eaten all of the carrots, celery, and hummus. And she was like, literally, I have to go back to the store. I have nothing for me to eat, for my own snacks. So when they go to taste something, we want to be careful about what we say. We are not saying, I don't know if you'll like it. It's yummy. Try it.
Yeah, try it. It's good.
See what you think.
It's good.
Yeah. And if they don't like something, What don't we like about it? Is it the texture? Is it the flavor? Even when it comes to vegetables, maybe they don't love raw broccoli. Not a problem. There's no rule book that says you have to eat raw broccoli, right?
Right.
And then we
It
can
tastes
take
different cooked.
Exactly. And it tastes different cooked for a couple minutes than it does cooked for an hour. It tastes different roasted versus boiled or steamed or whatever. And then we can take what they like. If they like cheese, if they like tomato sauce, put that on top of the broccoli. And we get to experiment a whole bunch of different ways. Over the course of a day, we're looking for a healthful breakfast, a couple energizing fruits, a few handfuls of energizing vegetables. Kids have different tolerance for grains and starches than adults, but it's still about that combination of foods that helps with our sustained energy. So one of the questions I get all the time, especially now, is, the frozen stuff, the microwave stuff. And we have to live in the land of reality. At the same time, if we could make rice in a way that takes more time from the actual rice, and then have that in the fridge that could then be reheated versus using the rice that cooks in 30 seconds in the microwave, we are better off, they are better off. It is getting them more quality nutrition. It reinforces fridge first, because the rice that we already made is going to be in the fridge versus the package of rice that can be microwaved is in the pantry. How much protein is an interesting thing. So infants and growing kids, the recommendation that functional nutrition and functional medicine and lifestyle medicine works with is 2 to 4 grams per kilogram of body weight for infants and growing children. Athletes, so think about your teenagers, like 1 to 1.8 grams per kilogram. So we can call it like 1 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight in terms of protein. So I did a little math for us. By the way, if you're trying to convert grams or pounds to kilograms for the body weight, use the interwebs. The technical way, you divide the pounds by 2.205. So, for example, if we have a child who's 60 pounds, it's about 27.2 kilograms. So we're looking for somewhere between like 54 and 109 grams of protein per day. If we convert that into ounces, it's like 7 to 8 ounces up to like 15 and a half ounces of protein in a day. That ends up looking like 2 to 4 ounces at a meal, 1 to 2 ounces at a snack. Our kids can eat that without it being this massive battle. I think sometimes we can get overly concerned that they're not eating enough of the things. And so I hope that calculation offers a little bit of perspective. Your kids probably don't need protein supplements.
No.
It comes up. I do love the idea of a multivitamin for kids to help fill in the gaps. One of the other questions that comes up is, how do I talk to my teen about weight without causing harm? So we focused on kind of kids and teens who are having metabolic health issues or challenges or are carrying extra weight in our episode Health and Nutrition for Kids and Teens. So I'm going to direct you back to that. But even today's conversation, I think, is helpful.
Yes. I struggled a little bit with this. Each person, each kid is so individualized.
Yes.
I was lucky with both of, because I had 2 boys, very lucky with them. In our house, I was the one that is extremely selective in what I chose to eat. Instead of saying I'm picky, I'm just selective. Mm-hmm. Not much of a meat eater or whatever. But I am a mom that I would fix whatever you wanted. And I still do to this day. I cook so much meat or whatever that I don't eat. It's totally fine. Mm-hmm. I think I said this a lot when I was working with some coaches, and they're like, but how do you get your kids to blah, blah, blah? How do you, all this stuff? And I say, here's the thing. You present it to them, and it's like, you keep trying. Same thing with the littles. It's hard.
And the attitude is, this is just what we do.
This is just
the
what
bigger
we have.
deal we make it. Like, think about what's the physics? Like, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The more we push, the more they'll resist. When this is just what we do, it's just what we do. And that's the approach that we want to take for all of these pieces with the hydration, with the movement. Move as a family.
Yeah.
And think about activities rather than, only the gym and then sitting on the couch.
Right.
Kids, right? Some kind of movement every day, like all of us. Could we get to 30 minutes of activity most days of the week? That works. Ideal for kids is minimum of 6 hours of sleep. Again, it depends on the age. A lot of ages, especially when they're growing, need a whole lot more than that. And when they're at an age where they can understand it, we can talk about what happens when we sleep. And why it's so important. And we can tie it to the things that they care about. So if they care about the sports game, or even if they're not much of an athlete, but they like watching sports, right? We can talk about it in the context of all those athletes that you watch. This is what they do, right? This is what we all do. This is just what we do. And it becomes the lifestyle they learn.
What I think is really funny about that, Jen, I just have to say that. Do you ever when you're watching a commercial and you get these really fantastic athletes and they're going to Taco Bell and then and Dr. Pepper, and I'm like, I guarantee you none of them eat that. Not one iota bit are they eating that. I just have to chuckle because I'm like, okay, you're portraying something to these young ones that probably not what we're trying to get at, but they're getting paid to do it.
Exactly.
But because I said that many times, I'm like, do you really think Patrick Mahomes is doing that? I'm like, really? I guarantee you he is not. I guarantee you as a nutritionist, and he has somebody who fixes his food, all of that. I guarantee you that. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think this is a good place for us to pause. We'll come back and we'll talk about some of the mindset and the stress stuff. And also some of the things that I think are in the zeitgeist now, like GLP-1s and some of that stuff that we want to talk about in terms of what we're doing now, creating generational health. So we'll come back for that after we highlight our sponsor for this episode, BetterHelp. What we've been talking about today is something that many of us are living right now. We said it at the beginning of the episode. We're caring for older parents and potentially also raising kids of our own. And certainly for ourselves, especially if you're listening to Salad with a Side of Fries, you're looking to build healthier patterns for yourself and that next generation. And at the same time, we carry a bit of the weight, no pun intended, of the generation before us. And all of this is a lot. When managing all of that, it's also very easy for our own needs to disappear, to be sacrificed. This is where boundaries can come in. And for me, therapy was critical in learning how to set boundaries, how to reinforce those boundaries, and even recognizing when I'm depleted. So learning to protect your own energy, figuring out how to show up for the people you love without losing yourself in the process, all of these critical elements of health are easier with therapy and support. BetterHelp makes it easier for you to start that support. You take a quick quiz, they match you with a licensed therapist, and you can communicate in whatever way works for you, if it's phone or video or text. And if the therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch at no extra cost. It's cliche because it's true. You can't pour from an empty cup. And I will add that you can't build generational health if your own is running on fumes. Over 6 million people have gotten help through BetterHelp. They've earned 4.8 out of 5-star rating on the App Store. Look, it's time. Do it now. Go to betterhelp.com/sideoffries. You get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/sideoffries. And we'll put the link in the episode notes so it's even easier. You can just click and jump to it. Okay, Dee, let's talk about this mental health stuff because that ties in. It's the stress, it's school, it's sports, it's limited time. And when we work with kids and families, the first thing we do is really asking them, like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What are we really after? What do you want to do? Because it's having some of those bigger picture things and dreaming and, right, we want to connect some of the day-to-day stuff with the things that are exciting to us, that are interesting to us. And being able to kind of connect those dots is really helpful, even at a young age.
Yeah. I'm going through my brain here a little bit on that too, Jen, and realizing that I feel like some of our younger generation old kids are mimicking the stress, the worry,
Yes.
all of this. I have to be perfect. I have to do all this coming from the parents who are just trying to survive day to day, go to work, put the food on the table, all that kind of thing, and then care for your family and do everything for them.
And it's the
And then they're
reality
mimicking
of
that.
Yes. And listen, who can blame anybody for feeling like they're running out of time in a day?
Oh, correct.
1,000%. And so I say all of this with all the compassion because I get it. It's like, it can feel like now we're adding one more thing that somebody has to think about.
Right.
The piece that I encourage with my clients is our objective isn't to pretend that everything's fine and there isn't stress. The objective is for them to see how you manage it.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll recommend to kids, take a break. Do you need a break? Right? Maybe go take a break for 2 minutes. Take a deep breath. Those kinds of things. It is okay for us to say to anybody else in the room, I need a break. I'm going to be back in 3 minutes. Or I'm going to be back in 5 minutes. Them seeing you take the break is potentially even more powerful than you pretending nothing's wrong and or encouraging them to take 3 deep breaths. Because to your point before, they mimic, they repeat. If we get help, it shows them it's okay to have help.
And it's hard for some of those parents that are both working parents. And again,
Yes.
trying to survive. They're like, what do you mean? Like, they have no idea where help is or how to ask for the help. Or if you ask for help, then I'm a weak person and I shouldn't need the help. I shouldn't have to ask for that help. But I mean, it's like, it takes a village because
Yes.
both parents are working.
Well, and that brings up the community piece.
Yeah.
There's a reason the phrase "it takes a village" exists.
Yeah.
And connection and community and purpose is such a major piece of longevity and health and stress reduction that they can see that. They can learn that early. And I think it's about pointing out to them how wonderful it is that your grandparent is here at your baseball game every week, or your grandparent is here once a week to help you and mom and dad, so that we can all do all the things that we want to do and need to do.
Well, if you look at the Amish, Jen, that's exactly what they do. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't even move away from them. They just add on. They just continue adding on to the house.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because one of the things that I see more and more as we all get busier and schedules get more hectic and everybody has more responsibilities and more activities and more things, I think what we lose is that shared meal.
Yep.
And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the impact of GLP-1 meds on the shared meals, community and connection that happens over food, and what we keep in the house. I have a number of clients on GLPs. I work with people before, during, and after the medications. And because it's not a priority for them, it can end up where it's the whole schedule of the family reorients a bit. And they may or may not have a ton of stuff in the house. And I think it would behoove us to consider what that's demonstrating for the littles around people on the medications and the conversation that we're having. Because as much as we learned so much from the diet culture conversations, I think it behooves us to just simply pause and be a bit aware of what they're experiencing with so many people on the medications. How are we talking about bodies? How are we talking about weight? How are we talking about food with these things?
Right. Good, bad, which I know those are, like you and I both hate those words. Like
Right.
good, bad, and associate them with food. It's like good and bad. You got good food, you got better food, and not bad food, better
Well,
choices.
and what happens when we're not super hungry?
Yeah.
And then, well, nobody around me is, if I can see kids, because now from the episode that we did in fall of 2025, the kids are not all right. We see kids as young as 6 demonstrating awareness of their bodies, awareness of food, disordered eating behaviors, and some of that kind of stuff. So if we know they're seeing it, they're aware. And I can also see where all the adults in my life are not really eating anymore. And
Oh,
I'm hungry. What are we teaching
yeah.
our kids there? We, as adults, need to be hyper aware of these conversations. And there isn't a culture in the world that doesn't commune over food.
I 100% agree with that. Food is a celebration or always.
Or grief.
Or grief or
Exactly.
yeah,
And so
100%.
as we speak to generational health, let's look at that. Let's look at, remember what we learned and consider the lifestyle that we're teaching everybody around us now. I don't begrudge anybody the medications. That's not my point in any of this. It's more just to understand that we need an awareness there that may not naturally pop up for us.
I have a few people that I know that are on those GLP-1s, but picturing what that sit-down meal would look like and how hard that would be. And one word keeps popping up into my head is model. And model, whether it's
Yes.
a person or
It's
whatever.
how they learn.
Yeah. So I think changing, maybe like think about, what are you modeling? I mean, me being the person that's very selective in my nutrition, that is extremely hard for me, because I'm not going to put steak on my plate because I'm not going to eat it.
Yep.
And it is extremely hard. I mean, the struggles, the whatever. I mean, I told my husband, I said, you get to be the food police, not me. I said, because I can't make them eat something that I'm not going to eat, but I'll fix whatever. And now watching my grandkids and the same thing, it's like, it's so funny. You can put a plate full of the same thing in front of my grandson and he's going to eat off your plate. He's going to, it's the exact same plate, but he's going to eat off your plate because yours looked butter.
Right.
Same exact thing. You're like, what? He'll pull your bowl and eat out of your bowl versus what he has in front of him, which is the same thing.
Yes. And that's the point of recognizing that the fundamentals are the same for all of us. We don't need different rules for different people in a house.
You're right. And I feel bad for the ones that, like, now you've got families now thinking kids that maybe, because I know they have kids that are on GLP-1s. What if you have 3 kids and you've got one on on GLP-1 and then like you've got different rules for different kids, and now like the message that you're sending is so, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, Jen,
Right.
on that. I mean,
Complicated,
it's
confusing.
it's very complicated and confusing, right?
Yep. I think we're better off if we focus on having conversations about true hunger and teaching and having conversations about what true hunger feels like. I'm hungry. Okay, what are you hungry for? I want M&Ms. Okay, well, M&Ms aren't necessarily our best fuel for before bed, right?
Darn good though.
Right? So is it, would you be interested in some of the carrots? No. Okay, is the only thing that sounds good to you the M&Ms? Okay, I wonder if we're not like stomach hungry, right? Where are you feeling the hunger in your body right now? Do we feel it in our head, in our heart, right? Where do we feel that? And then we're having a different conversation. If we can teach them what true hunger feels like, true hunger is in the stomach. Typically, like I had this conversation with a client the other day, like chicken and broccoli or some relative equivalent will sound good when we're truly hungry. It's why when we're really hungry, we look at a menu at a restaurant and we have a difficult time making a decision because everything sounds good. We're hungry. Typically, if only one thing sounds good, it's usually not stomach hunger. That's okay. It doesn't mean that we're not hungry. It means, what are we hungry for? Where are we not being fed? And it doesn't mean that we have to deprive them. It means that this is an opportunity for us to have a conversation. I think generational health is what we do most of the time, how we have these conversations. What does vacation look like? What does every day look like? What do parties look like? And recognizing how they learn. So screen time is a piece that we didn't really talk about, but I have here in my notes. This is a challenging one for all of us, and every parent is going to choose what works for them in when they go to screens and when they don't. I think recognizing, we talked about this in the episode with Justine Angfonte, and it was Sex Ed for 2022. She talked about how to use social media and TV as a jumping off point for conversations. And I love that tool as a way to use some of the stuff that they're doing. And back to the idea of what we're modeling, how we're talking about things, how we're talking about our phones and our screens. We are not great on our phones. And I say we because I am attached to my phone. And this was now a couple years ago, but I was sitting with my nephew watching TV and I left my phone on the counter and I said, can we practice being without devices for a little bit? I put my phone over there. Will you put the iPad down and we're just going to do the one thing together? And he was like, okay. It becomes this thing that we want to model also. Offer choices. This or this. Make it two things where you literally are okay with either one, right? That ownership and autonomy, that freedom. Why I love the recipe that I'm sending to the members this week is because you can make them and your kids can still go put breakfast together for themselves by taking this out of the fridge and heating it up versus taking the frozen waffle or the frozen pancakes and heating them up. We don't have to lose the choices and freedom and independence when we start to cultivate a life that inherently leads us to health.
Do you think, Jenna, because you work with kids,
Mm-hmm.
so when you're working with those kids, essentially you're working with the whole family
Yes.
because the kids aren't buying the groceries.
Correct.
And
we do
then,
sometimes make grocery shopping a collective activity.
And rightfully so, right? I mean, especially when they're older, they need to understand all of that too.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's been a gap from some generations of how do I provide really good nutrition? Because this is all I've ever known. And that's all they've ever known. And just like when you're working with adults, they're like, I don't even know where to start. So if you're an adult and you don't even know where to start, and then you have kids, it's cyclical, just like you say.
Exactly. And it's not your fault.
No, not at all.
Of course you don't know where to start because we weren't really taught this. And that's the beauty of this conversation, to break the cycle of let's learn this.
Yeah, let's learn it.
Let's do this together. Let's figure out what quality nutrition, movement, hydration, stress management, sleep, community connection, mindset, right? Let's learn what this looks like so we can do it together and create the life and lifestyle where the inherent outcome is health and longevity and joy.
Yeah. Because if I'm remembering right, I don't know if you said it, Jen, or if I heard it somewhere else. So in-laws, my mom, they're in their mid 80s. And then now I have a brother that's 65. I just turned 60. And then, now my kids are in their late 20s, 30s, and then they've got little ones. And each generation, I just feel like each generation has gotten less healthy, less healthy, less healthy, less healthy. And I feel like that generation, I mean, I look at people in the gym that I teach at too. It's they talk about, I'm 85. I'm like, I hope I get to be 85, right? I mean, that's my goal. My goal is to be able to make that. That's my goal.
Absolutely. There's the phrase, die young at a very old age.
Yeah, exactly. So then I just worry, even my kids, each generation I don't feel like is living nearly as long as the generations before. My in-laws, I mean, my husband's grandfather, he was 103. True. Yeah, he's 103. My father-in-law's 85. We're in our 60s. So it's luckily we're fairly healthy-ish, that I think we are or whatever. Yes. And it's hopefully we've made it that far. But it's there's a lot of parts of generations now, people that I know that are coming into the gym and, they're asking for help and they're actually younger than I am. And it's okay, wait a minute. Tell me what's going on, what's changed,
I think our food
Tell me your
supply
like. So much you like.
Yes, our food supply
Mhm.
has changed.
100%.
What we've learned has changed. What we accept has changed. And that fundamentally has been the why behind this whole series of episodes that we've done of understanding disease states are a function of lifestyle, and they respond to lifestyle even after the disease process is in motion. And let's understand what it looks like to be well. Let's put the pieces in place so that we are reversing this piece. And I think this is sort of a great place to wrap this up, which is that statistically, you are spot on. Over time, the life expectancy is getting shorter. We have the first generation of kids who are not expected to live as long as their parents. This conversation is how we change that. Generational health is what we're looking to create, and here's how to do it. And of course, we didn't know how to do this before, and of course, we didn't learn a lot of these things, which is why we're having this conversation. So you're not alone, and you don't have to figure it out alone. And recognizing that you would like that cycle to end with you is potentially the most powerful choice that we can make.
Your podcast last week was really good about that. And what I think is, I've shared it with some other people. I think what they have to, I'm hoping that they hear out of that, and everybody else that listens to, I hope what they hear out of that is it can change. It can change. It doesn't have to be the norm. It 100% can change. And the change starts with you,
Yes.
with somebody. Somebody
I have
has to
chills
start
as
the
you're
change.
saying it, so it must be true.
Yeah, I mean, I do too, because I'm like, the change is you. Like,
Yeah.
that's how that change happens. And I do kind of feel like we're starting to come a little bit full circle in nutrition and getting the
Yes.
information out there, and people are recognizing things about that. I have hope about that. I have
Absolutely.
100% hope. I mean, I'll give you an example really quick because I know we're about done. Is like my youngest, 23, he just turned 23. He's married, just moved to South Dakota, whatever. They're shopping at the farmer's market.
I love it.
I love it too. When he told me, he goes, "Yeah, we're going to the farmer's market." And he goes, "And it's this really cool market, and it's got, local food and local, beef and dairy and all this kind of stuff like that." And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm so proud of them because they recognize. He goes, "We still have to go to the store and get, some things." But I'm like, and they're in Rapid City, South Dakota. They're not in a massive city. So I'm like, if we all look for that, and it like what a change that can make to the next generation as well. And I think that's where it's starting to be a thing. I mean, I just got back from Ireland and they do that. I mean, there's these little family area community stores. Everybody brings their stuff and everybody sells it, and people come and shop there for those things.
I love
Coolest
it.
thing ever. Coolest thing ever I saw.
All right. Ireland is on my list, so now I'm even more excited to go.
Oh, yes.
All right, friends. This brings us to the preview of our nutrition nuggets. So on Friday, in this week's bite-sized bonus episode, we're talking about the Feel Bar. So the Instagram algorithm has me pegged. So I was fed a reel by the founder of this bar. He touts that it's made from 100% organic, real ingredients, and says it's the most natural protein bar you can have. So naturally, I made a note and we're going to look at it together on Friday in this week's bite-sized bonus episode. So be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button, and then your app will alert you when it goes live on Friday. Well, as always, everybody, I'm Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I am at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message because I truly love hearing from you. Dee, thank you again for joining me this week.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a lot of fun. Love the topic.
Yay, good. Awesome. And of course, friends, if you are not already a member of the Happy Healthy Hub, I invite you. You'll go to asaladwithasideofries.com/membership. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, and of course, your health, on top of access to the community board where we can interact, ask and answer questions, and so much more. You get discounts, curated content, interview episodes in full video, and of course, this week's recipe for individual sausage casseroles. So until next week, remember, whether it's family by blood or by choice, It's up to you to create generational health. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.